The most intelligent people you know, the ones who read everything, analyze everything, see through every one, are often the last ones to see what's actually happening to them, not because they're blind, because their intelligence is being used against them in ways they were never taught to recognize. There are 5 specific mechanisms, and the 5th, the permission loop, is the one that keeps people stuck long after they've already recognized the first 4. We'll get there. Machiavelli spent years observing how power worked in Renaissance Italy, and how intelligence alone did not protect people from it. What he wrote about perception, calculation, and human nature maps directly onto what's happening to people today. Here's the first way it happens, and it starts the moment you decide to think instead of feel. Lesson 1. The analysis trap. Men in general judge more by their eyes than by their hands. Machiavelli, the Prince. What he meant: most people react to what they see in the moment. They feel discomfort and they leave. But intelligent people? They analyze the discomfort first. They examine it. They turn it over. They build a case. And while they're building that case, time passes. Months. Sometimes years. Here's what that looks like in practice. An average person feels something is wrong in a relationship. Something small. A pattern of dismissal. A joke that lands wrong. A silence that has weight. They note it. They feel it. And something moves in them. An intelligent person feels the same thing. But then they say, wait, let me understand this fully before I react. Is this actually a pattern, or am I overreading? Is this about them, or about my own past? Have I given this enough time to see clearly? And right there, in that moment of intellectual mercy, the trap closes. A manipulator doesn't need you to be blind. They just need to keep you doubting what you already saw. The intelligent mind is the most productive factory for manufacturing doubt about its own perceptions. Have you ever caught yourself explaining someone's bad behavior so thoroughly that by the end of your own explanation, you felt guilty for noticing it? That's not empathy. That's the analysis trap. And this dynamic works especially well on people who trust analysis more than impulse. A Machiavellian reading of the situation would suggest a colder response. Judge by pattern, not by argument. When you find yourself constructing a detailed explanation for why someone's behavior wasn't what it appeared to be, stop. Ask, how many times have I had this same internal debate about this same person? If the answer is more than 3, you're not analyzing, you're stalling. But analysis is only the first trap. The second one is worse, because this time your intelligence doesn't just slow your exit, it recruits your conscience against you. Lesson 2. Empathy exploitation. Intelligent people tend to feel more, not less. They process social dynamics deeply. They read subtext. They feel what others feel, sometimes before those people feel it themselves. This is a genuine gift. It is also the most precise vulnerability that can be used against them. When someone with high empathy senses that another person is in pain, a particular anxiety activates. Did I cause this? Am I responsible for fixing this? In most contexts, this makes you an extraordinary friend, partner, colleague. But in the presence of someone who has learned to perform pain strategically, this becomes a weapon pointed at you. the manufactured wound, the strategically timed tears, the sudden fragility that appears precisely when you try to create distance. The message isn't always spoken, it's felt. If you leave right now, I will fall apart, and you know it. And an intelligent, empathic person doesn't just feel this, they calculate it. They think, if I leave and I'm wrong about what I suspect, I will have caused real harm to someone vulnerable. So they stay, to be sure, to be fair. Have you ever stayed in a situation not because you wanted to, but because leaving felt like abandoning someone who needed you? And did you ever wonder afterward whether that need was real? Here's the tell. Genuine vulnerability appears independently of your decisions. Performed vulnerability appears exactly when you try to make a choice for yourself. Watch when the pain shows up. That timing will tell you everything. And what happens next is where intelligent people make the costliest mistake. Because by lesson 3, they already understand what's happening, and they still don't leave. Lesson 3. The Rationalization Cycle. Here is something most people won't say to your face. Intelligent people are better liars to themselves. Not because they're dishonest, because they are skilled at constructing coherent narratives. When something happens that doesn't fit, an average person sits with the discomfort. An intelligent person resolves it quickly and brilliantly by building a story that makes everything fit again. Consider someone, call her M. She spent 3 years documenting a relationship in a notes app. Every incident, every pattern. She was thorough, articulate. She could explain every red flag with precision. His background, his stress, his attachment style, what she might have done to trigger it. The notes filled up. She stayed. Because the explanation, once complete, dissolved the alarm. That's the rationalization cycle, not ignorance. The opposite of ignorance, applied in exactly the wrong direction. The most dangerous manipulation rarely sounds false. It sounds reasonable, just in the wrong order. You're not given lies. You're given truths, arranged so that the conclusion someone else needs you to reach feels like your own. Have you ever noticed that after a difficult conversation with a particular person, you always end up feeling like the one who needs to adjust? Not sometimes, always. Always is a data point. And intelligent people, who are excellent at weighing evidence, often forget to weigh repetition as evidence. Before you explain someone's behavior again, count how many times you've explained this specific behavior before. If the answer is more than 3, you're not analyzing. You're papering over a pattern. 3 patterns down. And you might think, I see this. I understand it now. But understanding these 3 hasn't been enough, has it? That's because there's something underneath all of them. A gravity that keeps pulling you back even when you know better. That's Lesson 4. Lesson 4. Sunk cost. Stop here for a moment. Before we name this trap, ask yourself one question. If you met the person you're thinking about right now for the very first time today, knowing what you know, would you choose to begin something with them? Hold that answer, because if it's no, then what keeps you there is no longer love or fairness or hope. It's investment. And investment is not a reason to stay. It's the weight of a trap that got heavier every year you didn't leave. Long before behavioral economics gave it a name, Machiavelli was already describing how people cling to failing positions after heavy investment. In negotiations, in political alliances, in military strategy, he watched brilliant people hold disastrous ground, not because it was winnable, but because they'd already sacrificed too much to admit it wasn't. Behavioral economists would later call this the sunk cost fallacy. And nowhere does it devastate more quietly than in intimate relationships. Intelligent people invest deeply. They don't enter relationships casually. They build them. They co-create meaning, shared language, rituals, future plans. They invest emotionally, intellectually, sometimes financially. They build something. And then, gradually, that building becomes a trap. Because at a certain point, the question stops being, "Is this good for me?" and becomes, "Can I really walk away from everything I've put into this?" 5 years, 7 years, a decade. Every year that passes is another argument for staying. Not because things are better, but because the exit price keeps rising. Every extra month doesn't just add pain, it strengthens the illusion that leaving would waste the years already spent. But sunk cost has no opinion about your future. It only chains you to your past. Go back to that question, the one from the beginning of this lesson. That answer is the clearest data you have. And yet, even with that clarity, people stay. Because the fifth trap is the one no one talks about. The one that operates even after you've recognized the first 4. Lesson 5. The permission loop. This is the mechanism Machiavelli would have found most interesting, and the one most people encounter too late. Intelligent people hold themselves to a high evidentiary standard. They don't want to be wrong. They don't want to act impulsively. They want to be sure before they make a move that will affect someone else. So they wait. They set internal thresholds. When it reaches X, I'll leave. And then X happens. And they reset. Okay, when it reaches Y. And Y happens. And they reset again. This is the permission loop. Not waiting for it to get better, waiting for it to get bad enough to justify leaving. What you do next, that part is yours. The worst version? They wait for the other person to do something unambiguous, something that no reasonable person could dismiss. They want permission from the situation itself to leave. This dynamic means that keeping wrongness just below the threshold of the unambiguous is enough. The intelligent person will wait, indefinitely, for clarity that was never going to arrive. Have you ever told yourself, "I just need one more example to be sure"? And the example came, and you asked for one more. You don't need permission to leave, not from the situation, not from them, not from the part of you that's still trying to be fair. In games where the rules are applied asymmetrically, waiting for the rules to protect you is not integrity. It's surrender. The pattern is already visible. It has been for a while. What you do next, that part is yours. These 5 traps all produce the same result. Intelligence stops functioning like protection and starts functioning like delay. You don't fail to see what's happening. You see it, and then keep negotiating with it. That is why people who understand the game best are sometimes the last to leave it. Machiavelli wrote about power without comforting illusions. And the most uncomfortable thing his observations expose is this: the people with the clearest minds are often the last ones to turn that clarity on themselves. Not because they can't, because they've been waiting for certainty that was never going to arrive. You've been waiting long enough. If someone came to mind while you were watching this, you already have your answer. The workplace version of this game is next. Same traps, more professional language, easier to mistake for normal.